This is the 6-minute review of Gemara Nazir Daf Yomi Beis, rolling on the bottom of Yud Aleph and Beis, and we begin with a statement of Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef Amar Rav Yechron. And of course, as we mentioned and we learned the Daf, this is going to seem a bit abstract and random until we get all the way through Amud Aleph, and it's going to come wrapped all around. The case that we begin with the name of Rav Yechron, someone says to a shliach, someone says to a messenger to go and marry me a wife, but he doesn't specify who is the woman, and the shliach goes and disappears, dies, and what now? We don't know. Did he marry a woman on his behalf? Says Rav Yechron, this man is usher to all the women in the world. Why? We assume the shliach did his bidding, and now we don't know who this woman is, and every woman potentially is the sister, mother, or daughter of the woman that this man is married to. So in as much as he could have two wives, but we have to be concerned that every woman is the sister, mother, or daughter, therefore he cannot marry anyone. He doesn't know, he didn't specify who's the woman. Every woman in the world is forbidden. Statement of Rav Yechron. Part number 2, Reish Lakish asks Rav Yechron for the following case. We have someone who separates a cane, a pair of birds, for either a zava, a yoledes, etc. And then what happens? One of the birds flies away. We don't know which is the ayla, which is the chatas. One flies away to the world. Or it goes and gets mixed up with the chatas amesais. Or one of them dies. What do? You take a second one, you put it together with this one, everything is good and dandy. But what if you specified one's a chatas, one's an ayla, and then one disappears? You have no takana, there's no way to fix it after the fact. What does it seem from this brisa? Asks Reish Lakish to Rav Yechron. There's no way to fix it after the fact. But what about all the birds in the world? Doesn't sound like there's a problem. Why? According to you, Rav Yechron, why don't we say that every single bird in the world might be this bird and therefore it should be forbidden? Suggests Reish Lakish, maybe you're going to tell me there's a fundamental difference. That what? You're going to tell me, So Amar Lei, Reish Lakish, Rav Yechron responds, you know what I'll tell you? Isha doesn't move around. A woman is set in her place. And therefore, what is the story with the woman set in her place? Kol kavua kemechsa al mechsadami. And therefore, every time she's set in her place, we cannot go after the roif. Even though it's true, the majority of the world, the roiv is not the mother, daughter, or sister of this woman. So why don't we just go after roiv and allow this man to get married? Because kol kavua, the woman is set, kemechsa al mechsa, and therefore it's forbidden. And you, Reish Lakish, are asking me from a case of a bird that flies around. It flies around, it's nayid, therefore we go after the roiv. And if you're going to tell me 1 second, maybe he met the woman in the shuk, and therefore the woman's also nayid, she eventually goes home. But by the bird it does not, and therefore by the bird, the reason why it's mutter is because we go after the roiv because it's flying in the world, whereas by the woman it's kavua, it's set in one place, and therefore we go called kavua, kemechsa al mechsa dami. Statement of Reish Lakish and Rav Yechron. Comes along Rava, and with this it's going to wrap it all up and bring it back to our sugya, that Rav Yechron is maida. Let's say a woman has no daughters, granddaughters, great-granddaughters, grandsons, no mother, grandmother, no sister, etc. Then you could marry any woman because there's no concern. But you could marry that woman that has no sisters, etc. But even if she has a sister, but it was divorced after the shlichus was made, you're allowed to marry that woman as well. Even though, maybe you would suggest, wait, maybe this is the sister. Because she was married at the time of the shlichos, when this man appointed the shlich to marry for him a wife, you're allowed to marry her subsequently. Says the Gemara, 1 second. What's the reason? My time, because at the moment you made the shlich, she was married. And therefore, who do you conclude in your shlichos? Only people that could potentially have been shaykh, meaning other women that were not divorced, not married. This woman is married, she's not included in the shlichus. Statement of Rava. Now, after all of that is said and done, we have a kasha from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says, if someone says, Harini Nazir, ve'olai legaleach, and so on, Nazir, and someone else says, Vani, ve'olai legaleach Nazir, we said if they're smart, they could go and they could give the karbanas for each other, and therefore fulfill their second statement of ve'olai legaleach Nazir. Says the Gemara. The second one, I understand, because the first one already said his statement of Harini Nazir. But the first one, how could he do it? The second one didn't make a statement, and according to the premise that Rava just explained to Rav Yechron, it's Maida, you only include things which are shaykh. And this was not shaykh at the time. Kasha of the Gemara and Rava based on our Mishnah. turning over to Bezim and Bez, the Gemara says, you're going to have to tell me. You're going to have to tell me that no. What he meant to say is, in Mishkachnan, this is really articulating the question one step deeper. It would be a Nazir. Davi Nazir, then Agalche, meaning even the first person, when he said Areini Nazir v'alei legalech Nazir, he meant if I encounter someone who is a Nazir, therefore the second person could be included. So too in our case, we ask on Rava, why don't we say Imishkachas the Megarsha Kadishli? So answers the Gemara, you know why? It's a din in shlichos, because no one creates a shliach only for something that what they could do themselves, right? That they could do right now. Something that cannot be done right now, you do not make yourself a shliach. So it's not a kasha, it's a din in shlichos. Says the Gemara, 1 second, we know this is not true. Why do we know this is not true? You only make a shliach, something that you could do yourself right now. If you cannot do yourself right now, you don't make a shliach. Ask the Gemara, we saw a Gemara in Nidarim, someone says, Tanab B'Trappis, be made for all the Nidarim that my wife makes until I come back from vacation, he's allowed to. You would think he's allowed to, says the Torah. No, Xeris HaKasav, he's not allowed to, says Rav Yeshaya. Rav Yehuda's son says no. We find Shlucha Shal Adam Kamaisai. So time, Adam Rachmani Shikmani Vishiveranu. If not for that, Abachabbas would be able to be made for the neder. So what's the kasha? But he himself, the husband himself, cannot be made for the nedarim until he comes back. Meaning, how do we know? It's Machlokes Rav Elazar and the Chachamim. Rav Elazar says the husband could. The Chachamim say the husband cannot. So articulates the Gemara this long and winded question. We think right now Rav Yeshaya goes like the Rabbanan, that what? The husband cannot be made for the Nadarim himself, and yet he can make Tapat Shabbos to be made for the Nadarim. But why? Because we need a special Xeris like Ranu. But if not for that, he would be able to. So your whole rule that you could only make a shliach for something that you yourself could do just blew up. Answers the Gemara, what do you mean? Maybe Rav Yeshaya goes like Rav Eliezer, and therefore there is no kasha. If he goes like Rav Eliezer, why did he do it? He's afraid that he himself is going to be tarid, he himself is going to be upset, and he's going to forget to be made for the neder in that case. We're over time, let's just finish with the Mishnah. If someone says, Harei alei legaleh chatzi nazir, and his friend says, I'm going to do the same thing, no such thing as a chatzi nazir, you accepted upon yourself a nazir shalim. However, if he's Chatzi Nazir Zem Miglech Nazir Shalom. Each one is a Nazir Shalom. That's what Rameir says. Chachamim argue and says there is such a thing as a Chatzi Nazir. Nazir comes along Rava, and Rava explains that everyone agrees. If you said Chatzi Karbanais, then there's no such thing. You got to bring the whole thing. Why? Because there's no such thing as a Chatzi Karban. The whole discussion in the Mishnah was only because he said Chatzi Nazir. That's when we have the Machlokes. Do we say it's a Nazir, a Neder with a Pesach with it, or not? And we'll pick up for the next Mishnah, the next Chazara, Mirza Hashem.